The Council on American Islamic Relations continues their onslaught against Americans into 2025 and beyond. Although they didn't reach 2024's high water mark of 80 attacks, they still managed 67 attacks in 2025, keeping to the general trend of escalation from year to year. 2025's attacks consisted of 17 attacks against Israel, 15 attacks against schools, 12 attacks against law enforcement, 9 attacks against elected officials, 8 attacks against private citizens, 2 attacks against teachers, and a miscellaneous collection of single attacks against businesses, white people, firefighters, and churches. The longer Americans continue to look the other way, the sooner they will achieve the Islamic imperative of proving dominance by hurting someone.
A teacher in the Central Dauphin School District is on administrative leave tonight after allegedly calling a Palestinian American student a terrorist.
What's reported to us is that the teacher says, "I do not negotiate with terrorists." To add insult to injury, other students ask, "Oh, what's a terrorist?" And the teacher allows them to go on their Chromebooks and search the word, and they do that, and then they turn to the student who was targeted by this racist speech, saying, "Oh, she really blasted you." This kind of reaction from a teacher is never acceptable. It's akin to calling somebody N-word or calling someone dirty, whatever, right? I ask your viewers to put themselves in the place of the student, if it was their child who was targeted by racist speech.
From the Oval Office to our local school districts, DEI in its place right now is the conversation being had. Here, Target continues to learn what customers are thinking about its decision to pull back on it. Today, there's been a nationwide call to boycott the home-based retailer. But
DEI! DEI!
In front of Target headquarters.
Hey, we're cutting up cars today.
Activists are asking Minnesota to cut ties with the company. Target did not comment when we asked them about the call to boycott. Black entrepreneurs whose products are sold in Target stores have urged shoppers to only buy their products. But activists say it needs to be all or nothing, and they can support those businesses other ways.
And for those vendors who benefited from the horrible tragedy of the murder of George Floyd and the change of culture that happened in Target, we want you to know that this reverse not only hurts you, but it hurts the future entrepreneur. It hurts you yourself.
Indiana University is designated as a hostile campus by the Council on American Islamic Relations. The organization says the move is due to IU's, quote, targeting of anti-genocide students, faculty, and staff advocating for Palestinian human rights. In a release, CAIR urged immediate accountability for what they say are violations of civil rights, constitutional protections, and academic freedom at the university. IU has not responded to those accusations.
A 78-year-old man accused of sending threatening emails to workers at a Muslim nonprofit. Paul Naiman of St. Clair, you see him there, is facing ethnic intimidation charges. Police say he emailed the staff and director of the Council on American Islamic Relations Canton chapter. The organization accuses him of repeatedly calling for the extermination of all Muslims and other hateful messages. Naiman could spend time behind bars or pay a hefty fine if convicted.
The Georgia chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR Georgia, they're calling on Emory's School of Medicine to reinstate Umayma Muhammad, who was suspended last November. So members of CAIR Georgia claim that Muhammad was wrongfully targeted and suspended. The suspension, it follows an interview Muhammad gave to a publication while off campus. Well, there are now calls for the university to respect Muhammad's rights to free expression. The push for this reinstatement, it comes after a report from Emory University's Committee for Open Expression. It found that Muhammad's actions were fully protected under the school's open expression policy.
Importantly, my interview with Democracy Now!, in which I shared these concerns, is protected speech according to Emory's own open expression policy. Policies that every school, including the medical school, are required to comply with.
Well, the committee's report also recommended that the university drop all proceedings against Muhammad and revise its conduct procedures. Well, we did reach out to Emory for a response to this report. A representative from the school responded saying, quote, Emory is unable to discuss student conduct cases.
Today, the Council on American Islamic Relations, otherwise known as CAIR, plans to formally designate Stanford University as a hostile campus. CAIR is the largest Muslim civil rights group in the country. The group says the decision was made because Stanford has repeatedly punished students for Palestinian advocacy and made changes to restrict student protests. We have reached out to Stanford to get a response.
We're now learning more about the group that marched in downtown Des Moines over the weekend. The Patriot Front is labeled as far right and extremist by the FBI. Now we know what they're protesting against. Well, a post on the website says Saturday's demonstration in Des Moines was in protest of, quote, the mass migration of unadmissible foreigners who have invaded America, end quote.
And the Council on American Islamic Relations, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization, released a statement yesterday morning saying, quote, we join all those who seek a society based on justice and mutual respect in condemning any efforts to promote racist hate and white supremacy.
Reaction tonight following a racially motivated attack inside a Dearborn store in Creve Coeur.
As 5 on your side's Brent Solomon explains, one group is calling on federal authorities to take action.
An out-of-mind experience for a customer who showed up to the Dearborns in Creve Coeur, only to be attacked while shopping. Police say Sean Singer walked by another man cursing, telling him to, quote, go back to your country. The customer told police the suspect raised his fist and swung at him, repeatedly hitting him in the face and upper body. When police showed up, they say the suspect told them, quote, I'm next, expletive, going to China to take them down because they were part of the COVID vaccine virus. St. Louis County Police charged Singer with assault motivated by discrimination. The Council on American Islamic Relations wants to see more.
The local police have brought some type of bias charge in the case, and we welcome that. But we'd like to see federal authorities also intervene to send the message that this kind of incident will not be tolerated.
A Superior Court judge in DeKalb County faces calls this morning to step down from the bench.
It's all over Judge Stacey Heydrich's now deleted social media post about Gaza and the remains of an Israeli mother and her 2 sons that were recently returned to Israel. Now, this week, the Council on American Islamic Relations of Georgia condemned the post and called for Heydrich to resign, saying her remarks demonstrate a clear bias against Palestinians and Muslims.
The judge issued a statement saying, quote, judges are human beings. We see and hear things that cause us to feel emotion and to speak out. She went on to say she is, quote, committed to reflection and recognizing how my words may be received by those who have a perspective different than my own.
Now to Fulton County, and happening later today, a news conference is planned to address alleged discrimination against the Fulton County School District. The Georgia chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, and Asian Americans Advancing Justice will claim that since October 2023, Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim students have faced racist, anti-Palestinian, and Islamophobic harassment, as well as doxing incidents across the district. A federal civil rights complaint has been filed with the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights.
Chicago, the hate crime trial for the man charged with the vicious murder of a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy, Wadia Al-Fayumi, is underway, with his mother, Hanan Shaheen, testifying in the days following the October 7th, 2023 attacks by Hamas. Her landlord of 2 years, Joseph Shuba, told her, your people is killing Jewish and babies in Israel. Muslim are not welcome here, not in my home. Days later, screaming, you are not doing anything about it. She added, I told him to pray for peace. Shaheen testifying the 71-year-old attacked, strangling and stabbing her, telling her son who was watching he'd raise him, quote, but don't tell people I killed your mom. Shaheen testified she fought Shuba off and ran to the bathroom. That's when she said he attacked Wadia, stabbing him, prosecutors say, 26 times, leaving the knife in the boy.
So we can send a message that hate crimes against anyone on the basis of their religion and national origin are not tolerated.
The South Jersey community is showing a restaurant owner
in ICE custody a lot of love. Her family is urging their customers to write letters in support of her release, while local leaders are denouncing the arrest of her and her husband during a raid earlier this week.
It's been 2 days since ICE agents raided the restaurant Tuesday morning and detained the well-known owners. Jalal Eminet is back home wearing an ankle monitor. His wife Amina remains in the Elizabeth Detention Center in North Jersey. On social media, there's now a strong push for folks to write letters about her character and mail them to the restaurant. The Council on American Islamic Relations called the raid a gross misuse of power.
She's never been in a situation like this. She's never committed a crime in her life. And we've been doing everything we can to try to get in touch with the facility.
This afternoon, several lawmakers lined up to condemn the raid. According to the family, the couple came to the U.S. on religious visas decades ago but fell out of legal status. They have pending immigration cases right now.
Two Muslim students in Waterbury are recovering tonight after advocates say they were attacked by classmates for wearing hijabs.
The Council on American Islamic Relations says the students are Egyptian and just moved to Connecticut not too long ago.
March 3rd, 2025 was the fourth day of Ramadan. It was also the day Farhan Mimin from CAIR says 2 Islamic students were targeted for their beliefs.
2 students at Michael Wallace Middle School who were assaulted brutally by their fellow classmates. They were beaten up and had to go to the hospital. And it's literally the most violent incident of school bullying that I've seen in my 10 years of working with CAIR.com. One of the girls suffered bruises to her face and a bloody nose. The other one seems to have had something scraped alongside her neck. But for the grace of God, they're alive. They've been in pain for the past week, staying at home because they're fearful about going back to school. Part of dealing with the problem is naming the problem. Vaguely calling it a religious-based issue, I think does not really underscore the seriousness of what happened.
Mimin tells me that CAIR will be sending a letter to the superintendent's office to try to schedule a meeting with the parents regarding the investigation, a safety plan, and disciplinary action for those involved. In Waterbury, Jamel Johnson, Fox 61.
2 women claim their hijabs were forcibly removed and say they were assaulted by NYPD officers at a demonstration last summer.
According to NYPD sources, inside about 20 people caused more than $5,000 in damages to the restaurant. An officer was assaulted. Said these wild protesters stormed a community restaurant and created an incredibly dangerous situation. It's clear that the cops did everything they could to protect the patrons and disperse the aggressive crowd, even while getting attacked themselves. 2 demonstrators and the Council on American Islamic Relations, New York, are suing the city and individual NYPD officers. The 32-page lawsuit filed in Manhattan federal court alleges 20-year-old Zarmin Azam could not breathe as an officer clutched her throat with one hand, strangling her with the fabric of her hijab. With his other hand, he swung his baton at the protesters trying to help her.
And this lawsuit does seek money and policy change, asking the court to rule the NYPD can never forcibly and publicly remove women's hijabs.
It felt humiliating and it felt like I was being stripped.
About 150 demonstrators staged a sit-in this afternoon, and 98 of them were arrested. They're calling for the release of Mahmoud Khalil, the Columbia graduate at the center of the controversy, now in ICE custody.
Free Palestine from the river to the sea, that's understood and known to mean the exclusion of Jews from what is now Israel and blocking access to a building. That's conduct that's not protected by the First Amendment.
While investigating anti-Semitism, last year the Congressional Committee on Education and Workforce demanded disciplinary records from universities. The Council on American Islamic Relations New York is now suing the committee and Columbia University for handing those over.
Because people felt free. If Congress is labeling these people as dissidents, as anti-Semites, as, radicals, as all these things, it gives people permission to then go out and violate their privacy.
A civil rights group that represents American Muslims is suing UCLA. They say the university failed to protect pro-Palestinian activists during their encampment on the Westwood campus last year. The lawsuit by the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, points specifically to the April attack by counter-protesters. University officials say they broke through a barrier separating pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian activists, resulting in a violent clash between both sides.
And the lawsuit is also aiming to hold accountable the actual violent thugs that showed up on campus and thought that they could beat protesters into silence. We want this lawsuit to set a precedent that in the United States of America, you have the right to exercise your constitutional free speech.
We've reached out to UCLA for a response, but have not heard back from the administration.
An elementary school teacher in Montgomery County, Maryland, in hot water tonight. The family of an 8-year-old girl says she was harassed for being American Muslim.
Yeah, Chris, that girl's father relaying to the Council on American Islamic Relations that he filed a complaint with the school that his daughter was humiliated, threatened, and harassed, especially regarding her hijab or head covering. The parents of an 8-year-old American Muslim girl at Cabin Branch Elementary School filed a complaint with Montgomery County Public Schools detailing a deeply troubling pattern of behavior from her teacher,
who made disparaging remarks about her physical appearance and who allegedly subjected her to disparate treatment that led to her apparently receiving harsher consequences for infractions that other students were not receiving.
The complaint alleged the teacher denied the girl access to basic necessities, including using the restroom and drinking water.
This led to his daughter feeling very anxious and very concerned, very afraid. She was reluctant to go to school.
According to the Maryland director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, the family didn't get a satisfactory resolution from the school. That's when the girl's father took the complaint to CAIR. When advocates contacted MCPS,
immediately, within not even a matter of days, we learned that the school had taken constructive action and that the teacher would no longer have access to the student.
In a statement to CAIR, the girl's father said, "It means everything to my family that my daughter can now feel safe in class."
Days after this video showing an intense encounter with 3 Muslim women, the man behind the wheel has come forward as Perry Green.
Hopefully they'll find it in their hearts to forgive me, and that, we shouldn't allow that in our society. Because y'all are pieces of shit.
You're the one attacking little girls.
Green, who is the ex-husband of U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, met with the 3 women at their place of worship in Johns Creek during Friday prayer.
I just wanted them to know that I humbly apologize to them because nobody should be treated that way, and that's not the right way for us to treat anybody with any differences.
The incident happened Sunday at the Avalon Mall in Alpharetta. The women say they went to a parking spot away from others to pray. Wednesday, the 3 victims decided to share their faces and their story only with Fox 5.
We thought that recording him would make him stop, but he made it even louder. He went even crazier.
Since the genocide in Gaza began, CAIR Georgia has recorded a 250% increase in anti-Muslim incidents in Georgia alone.
We do want to point out Alpharetta police say they do not intend to press any criminal charges. They say all speech is protected. In Johns Creek, I'm Eric Perry, Fox 5 News.
And it is not acceptable for anybody to be physically harmed for any reason, but especially because of who they are.
A strong message tonight from advocates for America's Islamic community following violence against a Muslim woman. The Council on American Islamic Relations says she was beaten at her apartment on the south side of Columbus, and they're saying it's a hate crime.
Video shows a Muslim woman being attacked by 4 people outside an apartment in Columbus. CAIR says this happened on March 20th. They say the woman was walking home from dropping her kid off at the bus stop when she was attacked.
Her neighbors attacked her very brutally, really for no other reason than Faith being who she is. We believe that this was an anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim attack.
You see the attackers punch the woman in the face, then she falls to the ground and they begin to kick her. CAIR says the attackers threatened the mother.
Punched, threats that they will kill you and your family outside of your home.
Wayne State University faces accusations of civil rights violations. CAIR Michigan has filed a complaint claiming a pattern of racial and religious profiling against Muslim and Arab students by WSU police. This comes after a wave of protests on campus over the war between Israel and Hamas. The complaint says police used unlawful force and demanded immigration documents. We reached out to Wayne State for comment. They sent us this statement saying, in part, quote, "We believe any allegations of a broad pattern of misconduct are without merit. We meet regularly with student, faculty, and community groups to discuss both successes and concerns. We take all allegations seriously and follow a well-established standard procedure to evaluate and investigate. We also regularly share resources and information about reporting concerns through the Dean of Students Office and the Office of Equal Opportunity."
Two young Muslim women are speaking out, claiming that Seattle police used excessive force after someone called 911, falsely reporting that they had a gun. The women believe that they were targeted because of the way they look.
The Washington chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations claims that on February 4th, two women in their 20s were subject to excessive force after another driver called 911 and claimed they had a gun.
What they didn't realize was when they would come back, they were confronted by a number of police officers with their guns drawn at them, screaming at them to get down. And it was a very, very traumatic incident for them.
The council's legal advocate says the two black women, both wearing hijabs, were targeted by the 911 caller because of their race and religious identity.
They're extremely traumatized. They described not wanting to leave their house from fear of interaction with the police again, having someone call in another false allegation against them as Muslim women. And I think the message that we're sending is you can't just target the Muslim community and get away with it.
A case tracker on OPA's website confirms a complaint has been received and is under investigation, a process that typically takes 30 days.
Here's what we know. In March, a firefighter observing Ramadan was pressured by District Fire Chief Brian Iveson to break his fast during a station dinner at Station 28. He allegedly threatened to change the firefighter's schedule if he didn't eat. As a result, the firefighter broke his fast. The district chief was later reassigned to desk duties, according to JFRD, who would not confirm why, only saying there's an active investigation. Omar Salih, an attorney for CAIR Florida, the Council on Islamic Relations, believes the JFRD fire chief's alleged actions, perhaps to build solidarity, went too far.
This is a case of religious coercion. I mean, we usually hear about cases of denial of accommodation for somebody to pray, for example, or have some time off for prayer, but never something like this, which is forcing somebody to abandon their religious practice.
Well, Attorney Salih couldn't comment on the specifics since this is not his case. He maintains the district chief's alleged actions could be a violation of the law.
Termination is something that we've sought in the past for somebody who makes such a serious violation of the law. I mean, this is extremely offensive. If you put it in any other religious context or category, preventing anyone of any faith to prevent or force them to do something is unacceptable.
I can speak now to Edward Ahmed Mitchell, who's a National Deputy Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. And it's pretty widely accepted, I think, now that this is what Israel is doing. It is weaponizing starvation. It's not letting any aid in, certainly not any food, and it doesn't have any explanation as to why that is the case. Where have we got to in terms of mankind now, our sense of humanity, that we are, as a world, allowing this to happen, and there don't seem to be any repercussions for Israel? Is there not international law that governs this?
Let's be frank, international law is dead. It does not exist, because if a country can get away with starving 2 million people to death while the world watches in violation of every basic principle of international law, then there is no international law, especially as far as Western nations are concerned. Mr. Netanyahu is openly starving the entire population of Gaza, as well as the Israeli hostages still held in Gaza. And he's doing this for political reasons. He is a truly evil man who should be mentioned alongside some of the worst war criminals of the past century. And it's long past time for not only Western nations that claim to support human rights, but Muslim nations, especially in the Arab world, to stand up and stop this madness that we're watching unfold.
Well, right now, the University of Pittsburgh is designated as a hostile campus for Islamic Americans. The Council on American Islamic Relations, a civil rights group, named Pitt as one of the just 2 schools really across the country with that designation. CAIR says that school leaders have, quote, criminalized conscience, punished peaceful protest, and targeted anti-genocide student groups. The group signaled out what they call a peaceful protest near the Cathedral of Learning last year that resulted in the arrest of a group of students. Well, a Pitt spokesperson says in part this: the University of Pittsburgh is deeply committed to free speech and to the fight against all identity-based hate. There is a difference, however, between exercising a First Amendment right to speak out and engaging in conduct that violates university policies or federal, state, and local laws.
New at 3, a new lawsuit against the California Highway Patrol and Los Angeles Police Department for the way the agencies allegedly handled last year's pro-Palestinian protests on the UCLA campus. Several attorneys and the Council on American Islamic Relations held a press conference saying both departments used excessive force when trying to break up a pro-Palestinian encampment.
The footage from that night is undeniable. The bruises, the injuries, and the trauma are undeniable. This lawsuit is about drawing a line. It's about saying that students have the right to speak, without being brutalized and violently attacked by law enforcement. It's about holding law enforcement accountable when they treat dissent as a crime and inflict violence onto those dissenting voices.
School District of Philadelphia is facing a lawsuit tonight for allegedly violating a teacher's civil rights. The Council on American Islamic Relations announced the suit today at the Friends Center in Center City. The federal suit alleges that the district punished teacher Kezia Ridgway when she spoke out against what she called systemic inequities and supported the rights of Palestinian and Muslim students. Now, prior to that, the lawsuit claims Ms. Ridgway had an exemplary record as a teacher. The district has not yet responded to our request for comment.
Much more people are banding together. They're condemning the aggressive actions of those ICE agents.
And Tony Shin is live downtown where a press conference was held just a short time ago.
The way this administration is dealing with immigrants is wrong. Terrorizing families and communities is wrong and inhumane.
Powerful words coming from a long list of speakers from several local organizations, including the Islamic Center of San Diego, as well as local faith leaders, all of them condemning the aggressive actions of ICE agents against undocumented immigrants. Most recently, the raids at 2 South Park restaurants where heavily armed agents served search warrants on undocumented workers who were allegedly using fake names and fake documents. The agents arrested 4 people as members of the South Park community banded together, pressuring them to leave.
We have veterans who fought for this nation who are being deported, who are immigrants and fought for this nation, and they should never be deported.
Hazin Nizam is the executive director for CAIR in San Diego.
President Donald Trump is again banning travelers from countries his administration deems dangerous from coming into America. The Bay Area chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, is now condemning that move, targeting a dozen countries. The executive order is set to take effect on Monday. It's a repeat of an order given during Trump's first term in office. The list remains largely the same, including Iran, Sudan, Libya, Somalia, and Yemen. CAIR's executive director released a statement writing in part, quote, "This is not just a Muslim ban, it's a Muslim and African ban. It revives a discredited idea that entire nations, and by extension their people, are security threats simply for being who they are or where they're from," end quote. The latest travel ban also imposes heightened restrictions on visitors from 7 countries, including Cuba and Venezuela.
Right back out to Kevin Coe, who joins us live from Oakland. It looks like somebody's speaking there. Kevin, fill us in on what is going on this stage right now.
Awesome. Councilmember Fife.
Yeah, we just heard from Oakland City Councilmember Carol Fife.
Please welcome.
1 second.
Sarah Bellew is a civil rights attorney and executive director.
Assalamu alaikum, Oakland. Greetings of peace. Brothers and sisters, I am here today after a heartbreaking week. Last weekend, ICE terrorized, that's the word, terrorized thousands of people in our communities across the state. So we are here to disrupt. We are here to say, no kings, no genocide, and no normalization.
And the Council of American Islamic Relations is strongly condemning the U.S. strike in Iran, calling it an illegal and unjustified act of war. Earlier today, we spoke with the head of CAIR's local chapter, who echoed that statement.
It's not Congress that calls the shot on how, when, and where our military should be used. It's not even the President of the United States. It's not Donald Trump. It's a foreign leader of a foreign government, and that's Netanyahu. And as an American, that is both embarrassing and scary to me, and I think most Americans would agree.
The Department of Justice closing a federal civil rights investigation into a Muslim-centered community planned for Collin County. The DOJ will not file any charges or lawsuits. The developers of Epic City have ties to the East Plano Islamic Center. The Justice Department opened the investigation after Senator John Cornyn called for it. He argued the development could discriminate against Christians and Jews.
Some critics have accused Texas Republican leaders of Islamophobia or a prejudice of Muslims.
Muslims. In a statement online, the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, celebrated the DOJ findings, saying in part, elected officials should respect the Constitution and serve all state residents instead of abusing their authority to discriminate against Muslims.
Some of Texas Republican Party leaders are denouncing Tarrant County GOP Chairman Beau French after his recent post on X that polled users who posed a bigger threat to the United States, Jews or Muslims. After an article on the poll was published, French posted that he was referring to the recent victory of Zohran Mamdani in the Democratic primary for New York City mayor. French said, quote, "Some people clearly misunderstood the intent. The poll has been deleted. I regret posting it. Let me be clear, anti-Semitism has no place in the Republican Party, and if you disagree with me, get out." A statement from the Texas chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, said, quote, "A poll asking Americans to choose whether Jews or Muslims are the bigger threat is not only offensive, it's dangerous."
CAIR and also Asian Law Caucus have filed the lawsuit on behalf of these two women. They say that the incident allegedly happened on May 15th last year during student protests at UC Irvine. Salma Nosardine and Shanae Ainey were arrested during those protests. Shanae says her hijab was ripped off her head and stomped on by an Orange County deputy while being arrested. She says her exposed hair was broadcast by the media covering the protests. At the Intake Release Center in Santa Ana, their attorneys claim both women were at the mercy of sheriff's deputies who ordered them to remove their hijabs in front of men for booking photos that are now public. Both women say their religious rights have been violated.
I want to make it clear that my hijab is the ultimate sign of my faith. It serves as my identity, my protection, and my faith. A year later, I am still deeply affected. I still hear my pleas to be covered.
A newlywed couple is reunited after the wife was taken into ICE custody, returning from their honeymoon.
I don't think I have words to express how happy I was.
Wadid's situation is described by attorneys as a, quote, procedural black hole. She's of Palestinian descent, a refugee, and stateless. She had to routinely, over 12 years, check in with ICE while her citizenship was being processed.
Her release is a sign of the fact that they didn't know what they were doing.
Mustafa Carroll is executive director of DFW's Council on American Islamic Relations. The Department of Homeland Security told us tonight this was not part of a targeted ICE operation, saying, quote, she chose to fly over international waters and outside the U.S. Customs Zone and then was flagged by CBP trying to re-enter the continental U.S.
The sad part of it is it makes people afraid that shouldn't be afraid.
Two sisters are seeking change from within the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office. They're suing the office after they were arrested during a protest and were allegedly forced to remove their hijabs.
She and her sister were arrested last year after participating in a peaceful demonstration for Palestine at the Grand Floral Parade. Court documents stating she was taken into custody after lying in the street in protest with others.
I remember her telling me, well, you can't wear it here. You're in jail.
She was forced to take her mugshot without her hijab and was seen by numerous male officers as she waited late into the evening to be released and get her items back. Aya Beydoun is one of the attorneys representing the sisters.
The real heart of this case is that what happened was so avoidable. And it's a simple ask from these young women. They just want these photographs destroyed and they don't want it to happen to somebody else.
A newlywed couple is reunited after the wife was taken into ICE custody, returning from their honeymoon.
I don't think I have words to express how happy I was.
Wadid's situation is described by attorneys as a, quote, procedural black hole. She's of Palestinian descent, a refugee, and stateless. She had to routinely, over 12 years, check in with ICE while her citizenship was being processed.
Her release is a sign of the fact that they didn't know what they were doing.
Mustafa Carroll is executive director of DFW's Council on American Islamic Relations. The Department of Homeland Security told us tonight this was not part of a targeted ICE operation, saying, quote, she chose to fly over international waters and outside the U.S. Customs Zone and then was flagged by CBP trying to re-enter the continental U.S.
The sad part of it is It makes people afraid that shouldn't be afraid.
Joining us now is Afaf Nashar, Executive Director at the Council on American Islamic Relations here in New York.
The second reaction is anger, because it's yet another example of a betrayal from our American government, who supposedly says that America is first, who supposedly values American lives. But then we see again and again that Americans are consistently massacred with impunity when it's at the hand of Israelis. First and foremost, this is not the first American that's been killed by Israelis, right? Or even back in the day, I remember in 2003, remember Rachel Corrie, who was literally bulldozed to death? The entire stories that we would watch in the movies about American heroes coming in and saving other Americans, that's all for the campaign trail and for Hollywood. None of it rings true. You don't see the occupied forces coming in to assist. In fact, sometimes they're perpetrators themselves. So is this sanctioned by the Israeli government? 100%. They're not only turning a blind eye, but oftentimes partaking in the massacre.
Tonight, we are hearing from the loved ones of a Tampa man killed in the West Bank Friday. Family says that 20-year-old Saifullah Musalat was visiting family and friends in the region when Israeli settlers beat him to death amid rising violence in the occupied territory.
Brother saw him take his last breath. He could not, he was just gagging because of the pain, because of the beating.
There is no confusion in this story. This was a cold-blooded murder, and our government needs to remove the curtain of deception from its eyes and our eyes and demand a stance.
Joined by CAIR, the state's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group, the family is calling for a U.S. investigation into his death.
Find those who committed this crime, to arrest them, and to prosecute them under U.S. law for the murder of an American citizen.
We're calling for no more than the protection of our government to our citizens. And those who murder our citizens here or abroad, that our government does everything within their reach to bring them to justice.
Tonight, the Georgia chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations is filing a lawsuit against Emory University. The suit was filed on behalf of Umayya Mohammed, who is a Palestinian-American student. Mohammed was suspended from the university's School of Medicine for violating the school's code of conduct. It's after Mohammed went on a radio show and was critical of a professor's service as a volunteer medic in the Israeli Defense Force. That professor filed a complaint against her. Mohammed's attorneys argue that Emory unlawfully discriminated against Mohammed and ignored their own free speech policy. We did reach out to Emory University about this lawsuit, but they declined to discuss pending litigation.
New developments this morning in the incident caught on camera outside of Stanford Mosque over the weekend. Stanford police saying they arrested Michael Slocum yesterday afternoon in connection with a tirade at the ICCNY Mosque. The Stanford resident is charged with breach of peace. He was released on no bond and is due in court later this month. In a statement, Farham Memon with the Council on American Islamic Relations disagreed with the charges, saying in part, quote, "It was a deliberate attempt to harass and intimidate an entire community because of their faith. The law is clear. When someone acts with a specific intent to target people based on religion, it is a hate crime." Well, stay with us as we continue to update you on this developing story.
American Islamic Relations Michigan chapter calling out Wayne State University, claiming the school is hostile towards free speech.
And the organization also alleging the university is using tactics to silence students. Fox News' Ingrid Kelly has more on how the university is responding.
As the fall semester at Wayne State University kicks off, the Council on American Islamic Relations Michigan chapter wants campus officials to take note.
CAIR Michigan has designated Wayne State University campus as a hostile campus toward Muslim, Arab, Palestinian, Jewish, and allied voices because of a suppression of freedom of speech.
A press conference was held Monday to put the university on notice. CAIR Michigan says its assessment is based on the university's policies against recent student protesting.
Especially after October 7, they started applying policies, erasing policies that were there just to suppress voices of students.
Well, the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy organization has now designated UC Berkeley as a, quote, hostile campus. CAIR made that announcement today and says it wants donors to withhold financial support from the school until changes are made.
Passing by would harass those of us at the gate on a daily basis. They would cuss at us, accuse us of anti-Semitism, or just yell at us to leave.
They have effectively
prevented students and suppressed students who are pro-Palestinian to share their voices and share their concerns.
CAIR members say they have commitments from at least 1,000 members of the alumni community to withhold either donations or financial support to the UC system until the changes in the code of conduct are reversed. We're going to put the complete list of all 28 schools on our website, ktvu.com, so you can view them. It's not just UC Berkeley, it's NYU, it's University of Chicago, University of Texas, et cetera, from east, west, north, south, Pacific Northwest. So we'll put that complete list on our website for you.
Happening today. The Council on American-Islamic Relations will be formally announcing a lawsuit against the University of Missouri president, Moon Choi.
That's right, Gabrielle. The CAIR, which is the nation's largest Muslim civil rights organization, will be holding today's press conference after Mizzou Students for Justice in Palestine was barred from participating in last year's homecoming parade. Last year, Mizzou Students for Justice in Palestine applied to participate in the annual homecoming parade. And according to a press release, just 3 days before that parade, University President Moon Choi emailed the group notifying them that he personally denied their application and mentioned the behavior of students at other universities. The Council on American-Islamic Relations and the student group announcing the lawsuit alleges that President Choi's decision to exclude them from the parade violates the First Amendment.
Public schools in Beverly Hills will display the Israeli flag each May during Jewish Heritage Month. The school board voted 3-2 to approve the plan despite concerns of partisanship amidst the ongoing war in Gaza. Officials say the flags will not fly on traditional flagpoles but will be posted elsewhere on campus. In a statement, the executive director of the Council on American-Islamic Relations, also known as CAIR-LA, says, quote, while we welcome efforts by school districts to celebrate the diversity of their students, flying the Israeli flag in a public school setting is not an acknowledgement of faith or heritage. It is a political statement in support of a state that has been accused by every major international human rights organization, including Israeli groups, of engaging in genocide, ethnic cleansing, and forced starvation in Gaza.
It would be like stripping somebody who's not a Muslim, a woman having her top and bra removed in public. I mean, it is that level of humiliation.
Attorney David Shami represents 4 Muslim women.
There was absolutely no justification for stripping those women of their religious head coverings.
A lawsuit was filed this summer against university officers and administrators, the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and the Arizona Department of Public Safety. Shami says his client's First Amendment rights were violated.
What they should have done was to remove the women from public view.
The lawsuit accuses a sheriff's deputy of instructing other officers to remove the hijabs during the arrests, citing MCSO's policy to do so. Shami says it's part of a pattern, pointing out the sheriff's office has been sued in the past over similar allegations.
I think part of the problem is they've never really had to pay enough financially to make it hurt, to make them actually care.
Head down at a railway station in the West Bank. 14-year-old Musa and his mother, Intifada, trying to get home from the West Bank back to Meriden after visiting family. His father says the two were detained by Israeli police even though they had American passports because they were Palestinian.
My son was trying to get his passport back. Let us go. I even have a video.
A video he says his son shot at the airport when police refused to give him his passport back.
We want to exit right now, so we're waiting for the passports. Why? Give us the passport.
Meanwhile, the Connecticut Council on American-Islamic Relations is also trying to help out.
They can't leave through Ben Gurion. They can't go to Jordan to leave through Amman. They're basically stuck inside the West Bank. What they've told me is that their location is near settlements.
We tried calling, but it was after business hours.
The walls are clean now, but a year ago, this church in Euless is where prosecutors say a late-night act of graffiti crossed the line into a hate crime. 3 Muslim activists face felony charges, one of them, Afshin Khan, surrounded by dozens of supporters and her attorney Monday.
It is a case that is placing our First Amendment rights and our sense of justice on trial.
Sources tell WFAA that on March 7th, 2024, exterior security cameras at Uncommon Church in Euless captured footage of the accused in the parking lot. Then the 3 are allegedly caught on camera spray painting anti-Israel graffiti that included profanity on this section of the brick wall at the church. Khan's indictment says she intentionally selected the victim, meaning the church, because of religion. That elevated the charges to a hate crime, which could mean tougher tougher penalties if convicted, despite demands from advocates, including CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations.
We demand that the charges be dropped immediately.
Tarrant County District Attorney Phil Searles responded saying, CAIR is an advocacy group, not a law enforcement agency. Their mission is to push their agenda. Our mission is to uphold the law, and that's what we'll do.
Tonight, the North Carolina Council on American Islamic Relations is calling on federal authorities to investigate Zarutska's death as a possible hate crime. The group points to video that appears to show the suspect making comments about her race and gender.
This weekend, the Jewish Federation of Sarasota and Manatee County is holding a commemorative event marking 2 years since October 7th. Former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant is set to attend that event. The Florida chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations has condemned Gallant's appearance, writing, quote, Floridians should not lend legitimacy or hospitality to someone accused of masterminding policies that have led to mass atrocities against civilians in Gaza.
The deputy director for the Council on American Islamic Relations applauded the deal.
This is an important moment, and it was long overdue. The genocide in Gaza should have ended long ago. The hostages and captives should have gone free.
He commended people who spoke out for Gazans, like demonstrators at college campuses.
Well, sadly, the Israeli government is still, even to this moment, continuing to bomb Gaza completely unnecessarily because the cabinet has not yet officially approved the ceasefire deal. It's purely sadistic. There's no reason for anyone else to die in a war that's supposed to be over.
And the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, issued a statement saying, in part, we welcome the long overdue announcement of a new ceasefire deal meant to permanently end Israel's genocide in Gaza, free both Israeli and Palestinian captives, and allow humanitarian aid to reach Gaza's starving population.
Executive Director of the Cleveland Council on American Islamic Relations says she's hopeful that the ceasefire can provide some immediate relief to those living in Gaza, but says even if this ceasefire holds, there's a long road ahead.
We know that this is not the end. We can't take a deep breath and say, okay, well, it's over. We know that it's not over. We know that it's going to still continue. The only way that it can be over is if the international community basically says, hey, Israel, you committed war crimes, and now you need to disarm, and you need to pay for justice.
Samar Ismail is an American with deep Palestinian roots. She's also a community organizer for the Council on American Islamic Relations, known as CAIR, here in San Diego. And this is video of the West Bank she took on her cell phone during a recent visit to her family there. Samar says it's evidence of the destruction Israel's national military forces have caused in response to the Hamas October 7th attacks. Tanks rolling through Palestinian communities.
That's why if you don't move out of the way before the tanker comes, they run you over. Multiple international reports have found that 85% of Gaza is decimated.
Wilfredo Ruiz of the Council of American Islamic Relations agreed with the protesters, sharing concern of the arrest warrant for Gallant issued by the International Criminal Court.
The International Criminal Court have found him to be in violation of war crimes. What our elected officials should be sending are FBI agents to arrest him and surrender him to the International Criminal Court.
Yoav Gallant served as defense minister until Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu fired him in November due to, quote, significant gaps and a crisis of trust.
Now joining us is Hussam Ayloush from the Council on American Islamic Relations. Mr. Ayloush, are you there?
Well, let's start by using the right terms. It is not fair to use hostages when we're talking about Israeli captives and then talk about prisoners when we're talking about Palestinians, because Israel has been holding thousands and thousands of Palestinians, many of them with no trial, and that includes many minors, many women. People have nothing to do and never been charged with anything. And by the way, many of them have been held way long before October 7th. So let's call both hostages or both captives to be fair.
Okay. That is a fair point.
There is a sense of relief that we don't have to watch in horror and helplessness as we're seeing our families and friends and our people back home being slaughtered. Everyone who is complicit in the genocide of Palestine needs to be held accountable for this. They have taken out complete family lines out of Gaza that just do not exist anymore. I don't foresee that there will be stability in the region because the other party is not interested in that.
Was there any relief that there might be some end to at least this phase?
There is always relief when there is relief to the people.
Tala Ali is regional organizer with the Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR. She says whatever positives are made, they are only a step toward permanent solutions.
Until occupation and illegal annexations and settlements and hostages can be addressed, then there is no road to peace.
However, some, like CAIR Maryland's director, had some reservations about the peace plan. Zainab Chaudhry says she was cautiously optimistic Israel would keep their end of the bargain, freeing roughly 2,000 Palestinians.
Because we also know that there have been multiple ceasefire proposals on the table over the last several months.
Chaudhry says it's been an unimaginable 2 years watching the events in the Middle East. She says this picture shows several family members of Maryland residents killed in Gaza.
We pray and hope that the Palestinian people will find a way to move forward, and they have inspired the world with their strength and their hope and their faith.
She hopes for peace for Israel and Palestine, but adds the Israeli government must be held accountable as the UN Commission says Israel has committed genocide in the Gaza Strip.
But there needs to be justice as well. When we talk about peace, lasting peace in the region, we need to make sure that there is accountability.
Images of freed Palestinian prisoners greeted by massive crowds in the West Bank and Gaza are being broadcast all over the world. It's a promising sight for the executive director of the Michigan chapter for the Council on American Islamic Relations.
We welcome that there is a temporary ceasefire and captives and detainees have been returned and will be getting medical treatment.
However, he's skeptical about the prospect of long-term peace.
There's nothing in the peace deal that talks about anything relating to Palestinian self-determination. And in reality, as long as the illegal occupation continues and the Israeli government is involved in land expansion, and not just relating to Gaza, but the West Bank and Lebanon and Syria, we don't see how there can be a sustained peace.
But on Wednesday, standing beside the leaders with the Council of American Islamic Relations Florida, he explained how this trip took a turn for the worst.
The Israeli government intercepted us on October 8, 2025, in the international water, illegally intercepted us and kidnapped us.
Dr. Daoud says he endured mental and physical torture for days.
They had us sit on our knees and toes for almost 2 hours with our heads down to humiliate us again. And then a verbal abuse started. And then the whole entire soldiers, they'll come at you and they will humiliate you.
And to make it very simple to understand for your viewers, imagine if it were in the reverse. Imagine if it were Palestinians who decimated 80% of Israel and killed 67,000 Israelis, innocent Israelis, and 20,000 Israeli children. Imagine if the conversation would be so technocratic and bureaucratic at this point in time. Certainly it wouldn't be. And so that double standard is something we have to confront.
We begin tonight with an update on the Northwestern lawsuit over anti-Semitism training.
The school required it in order for students to enroll. Let's listen in to a press conference.
Definition of anti-Semitism, imposing this training, which as required education violates not only students' rights, but also faculty governance. Faculty are supposed to have the power to determine.
My name is Dr. Jonah Rubin, Jonahrubin. I'm the Senior Manager of Campus Organizing at Jewish Voice for Peace. Northwestern's claiming that its anti-Semitism training represents the views of the vast majority of Jews. That is patently false. Public opinion polling shows that 50% of students on campuses in the United States who identify as Jewish do not identify as Zionist. Students from our Jewish Voice for Peace.
We're going to have more on this. Joni Lum is just outside the courthouse, and we hope to check in with her in just a little bit.
That federal judge is now explaining her ruling, which just came down on that training at Northwestern University. It's bias training, and the lawsuit claims that it discriminates against Palestinian students, The judge just denied a temporary restraining order, and she is explaining why. The university's stance was that students created a crisis here that had them going after a temporary restraining order, but so far the judge has denied that. Reporting live at the Federal Building, I'm Joni.
This morning, British journalist and political commentator Sami Hamdi is in ICE custody after he was detained at SFO. Hamdi had been on a nationwide tour with a stop in Sacramento over the weekend. Now he could be deported. The Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, says Hamdi was detained even though he had a valid visa. They say he has been publicly speaking out about the war in Gaza, criticizing Israel's role in it.
Federal authorities here detained him at the behest of a anti-Muslim extremist individual, Laura Loomer, and a group that had been advocating for his detention and for the revoking of his visa on baseless claims.
Hi, Julie. There has been a big fight here in Texas between Governor Greg Abbott and the Muslim community after he designated the largest Muslim advocacy group as a foreign terrorist organization. So in North Texas, a Muslim community leader, Marwan Maroof here, is soon going to be deported. He's been in ICE custody since September, and then just last week, an immigration judge issued him a final order of removal. Now, according to DHS, Maroof is from Jordan and overstayed his visa. They shared, quote, Maroof was denied a lawful permanent resident visa due to his involvement with a foundation that provided material support for Hamas, a designated foreign terrorist organization. The Council of American Islamic Relations, known as CAIR, has been fighting for Maroof's release, describing him as a pillar of the community. Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott responded to this on X. He said, quote, this is another example of CAIR Texas's support for Hamas and terror. Abbott designated the Muslim Brotherhood and CAIR as foreign terrorist organizations earlier this month.
In other news tonight, a Muslim civil rights group is demanding a public apology from San Luis Obispo County District Attorney Dan Dow. The Council on American Islamic Relations says Dow's recent social media posts are anti-Muslim. Dow reposted content on X referencing the 9/11 terror attacks and questioning the election of Zohran Mandami, a Muslim, as New York City's mayor. The civil rights group says the posts weaponize anti-Muslim bigotry and undermine public trust. Dow says he shared the post because he opposes Mamdani's socialist views and is concerned about how his policies will affect the country. He maintains he supports the Muslim community and has strong ties to local Muslims.
Our top story tonight, the Council on American Islamic Relations is suing Governor DeSantis after he declared CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organizations. The governor claims those organizations have connections to terrorist groups like Hamas.
To our governor, your designation has no basis in law or fact. You do not have the constitutional authority to unilaterally declare any American or an American institution a foreign terrorist group, nor is there any basis to level the smear against our organization. Our mission is also to empower and educate and enlighten the masses about where their tax money is going, who is funding a genocide, and what we should be doing with our taxpayer money. And if that is going to agitate or cause discomfort to any of our Israel First politicians, then get ready to be uncomfortable, because we will not be silenced.
Both sides know where this is headed.
Well, I welcome the lawsuit.
And they're fine with it.
We welcome it as well, and we will see him in the courtroom.
Senator Tommy Tuberville doubling down today on what some are calling anti-Muslim comments made earlier this week. And we first brought you this story last night. Senator Tuberville was speaking against an Islamic school's efforts to move from Homewood to Hoover during a radio show. Now, on the show, Tuberville said if you believe in the Quran, go by Sharia law, and want to teach it in Alabama schools, he simply doesn't want you here.
We have freedom of religion in this country. I agree. If you want to come here legally and peacefully practice your religion, you have every right to do so. But folks, Islam is not just a religion, it's also a political ideology, and it's incompatible with our Western values.
And the Council on American Islamic Relations Alabama office also responded to those comments. National Deputy Director Edward Mitchell saying, quote, at a time of increased threats targeting religious communities across the country, elected officials must reject rhetoric that puts people at risk.
They are a threat to our security and our safety.
During a speech at a Turning Point USA event, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard claimed that groups like the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR, issued a call to action to implement Sharia law in the U.S. Gabbard went on to single out the city of Paterson.
Paterson, New Jersey is proud to call themselves the first Muslim city. They are working to implement in their own governments these Islamic principles.
The executive director of the New Jersey chapter of CAIR said the comments are inaccurate and place Muslim residents at risk.
Her remarks have placed the community here in Paterson, the mosques here in Paterson, in the crosshairs, putting them in direct harm's way.
Both CAIR New Jersey and Paterson officials say Gabbard should retract her statements and apologize.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Palestinians are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do. And there's no end to it. We sit watching our TVs while some local news which tells us that today CAIR attacked 67 people on TV, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it, my life has value. So I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the phone and say, stop attacking us on TV.